Hey guys, welcome to Sip It and Rip It.
I was waiting for you to say something else. You know,
No, that's it. Welcome to Sip It and Rip
that's
It.
it. That's it, guys.
That's the episode.
That's the whole episode.
Happy New Year.
Well, actually, December 31st is the day that we are recording it, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So tomorrow will be 2023.
Yeah, I'm planning on going home and going to bed early.
I'm planning on staying home and going to bed.
Yeah, that's feel like it's the way it needs to be done this year.
2022 kind of sucked, didn't it?
I think it had its ups and downs.
I think the last 3 years have sucked.
2019 probably the worst year of my life, to be honest.
2019 was rough for me too. Honestly, I think we were both going through some pretty rough shit.
Yeah,
in 2019.
2022 definitely has handed me a couple of turd sandwiches. I just kind of had to put mustard on and eat them anyway. I didn't really want to, but I had some family pass away, and the career change or the job change. It's not a career change.
Right.
Stuff like that. So it just is what it is.
Yeah. And for me, I had a job change, but it was good thing. So I guess I had one good thing happen.
Yeah, I think mine is too. It's just the transition has been a little rockier than I intended.
Yeah, which is unfortunate, but it wasn't really your call.
No,
we don't have to go into the details on all that.
It's not my fault. It was rocky. No, I did everything I could. So this is what it is. But yeah, that's 2022 personally really wasn't that bad of the year.
I guess I don't know.
Definitely some outside things that made it kind of shitty, but
I feel like personally it wasn't like a terrible year, but just in my opinion, the whole world just feels like it's kind of shittier. Like people's attitudes.
I think that's where, and I'm not going to get political, but that's just kind of where the US of A is right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, this economy sucks. It's really expensive to feed yourself.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you're a powerlifter and you got to eat 4,500 calories a day. Trying to eat it cleanly and not be.
And that was a motivator for my career move is working 7 days a week for pennies. I believe in what I do, and I believe that it should be people first and not money first. But at the same time, I need to be able to pay my bills and feed myself. And I don't expect to get rich off of it, but I do expect to
be able to live.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that was definitely a motivating factor, and it might have been for the worst, but I doubt it very seriously. Things are going to start turning around, looking better for me soon.
Yeah, 2023 is going to be a year.
It is. Now, I will say this about 2022, and this segues into what we always do, but I did have, and you were there to spot me, I had the best squat day of my life today.
Yep.
Thanks in part to my coach, Ron Tarvin. So I'm pretty enthusiastic about 2023 because I ended 2022 stronger than I've ever ended a year ever. So pretty fucking neat.
Yeah. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. We got
Shanky's Whip.
Shanky's Whip Old Fashioned. So it is an Irish whiskey with like whipped cream liqueur in it or something.
I think it was vanilla and caramel.
Vanilla and caramel, but it made a really awesome old fashioned.
Super good. It's sweet, but the flavor is just fantastic.
For the record, I just want to mention this is a powerlifting podcast. I am in prep. You shouldn't drink through prep, but we drink for the podcast. So
we're not drinking a lot anyway. And it's so smooth too. Like it just goes down and it's like
it's great. It's really good.
You can feel the alcohol, but it's not jarring.
Not at all.
It's just
very, very good.
Yeah.
So, what did you train today?
I did not train today. I'm going to let you kind of already touched on it. I'm going to let you talk about the rest of your training. I'm actually going to talk about the diet.
That's fair. So I had 3 sets of 5 programmed at just what would have been mind-numbingly heavy weight for me that I would have never, especially after this labral tear, I never would have thought that I would be back under that weight for reps again. Or for at least for volume. I kind of expected, you're going to have to touch things at 85% of your 1 rep max and above to get better. That's how you do it. But I really kind of expected, and maybe I shouldn't have, but I kind of expected,
hit the low end of your numbers.
Yeah, they hit the lower end of all my numbers and just to survive today. And I ended up hitting the top number for all 3 sets and never had to move down. So I'm pretty happy with that. But I mean, it was pretty meat and potatoes day. I had regular low bar squats. I had SSB front squats, and I had some kind of maintenance technique work deadlifts. So I think I had like 3 sets of 2 at like 365, and that's like literally not even a warm up weight for me anymore. So it's. But you know, me and Ron are working on new technique for me, helping me out with a slack pull, that kind of thing. So there was plenty of work to be done, despite it being a small load. And then I had some lunges and some GHRs, which I kind of had to modify being in the nutrition shop today. But
did you do the banded?
No, I ended up basically doing. I didn't do the banded like reverse hoppers. I ended up doing good mornings with a heavy band.
Okay.
So I mean that was because he wanted a real like horizontal glute ham developer. So the best thing for me to do was try to hit. Specifically kind of isolate my hamstrings, not so much my lower back. So my lower back took a beating this week on my deadlift day. So I think he knew that and he intentionally kind of planned for that. So it's looking more and more sports specific. I have less and less accessory work all the time, having like 2 or 3 accessory lifts a day. A total of like 4 to 6 exercises, depending on if it's a lower body or upper body day. So it looks quite a bit different than my programming. Not that there's anything wrong with that. We and him just go about things a little bit differently, but it's been really, really good for me because I feel in general, even after touching all this heavy weight, I feel really recovered. So, with the only exception being this past deadlift day, my back is still torched.
Right.
How I managed to squat that day, as torched as I was, I have no idea. But that's it. That even makes it better though, because I was pretty fatigued and was able to do something I'd never done. So, anytime you do that, that's pretty good. So I think that my goal of 1,500 plus in March is more obtainable than I really even thought it was going to be, to be honest. So that's a positive place and a good, like I said, a good way to end 2022.
Yeah.
In terms of my diet, I'm not dieting, and I'm hoping to change that. Not to buy into the new year, new me bullshit, but there is a competitive edge to be gained from a diet, and I'm just not following one right now. I ate a big breakfast that powered me through my workout, and I ended up literally just forgetting to eat lunch until like 5 o'clock. So I ate a meal prepped lunch at 5 o'clock as I was closing the shop, and then got dinner on my way here. So my last 2 meals were within an hour and a half of each other.
Right.
And I'm probably 500 to 1,000 calories under maintenance, even with a trashy dinner. So, I mean, didn't do my best in terms of diet today, but it is what it is. Training still went well. Yeah, I definitely, I have to get that part of training right because there's so much to be gained from a diet, whether it's eating enough or eating, in your case, which you're about to elaborate on, eating little enough to get things done, whatever your goal is. And right now, I'm just not eating for any goal. So, hell, right now, honestly, I could probably eat 200 or 300 calories under maintenance, lose a little weight. And if I just hit my protein goal, I would probably see dividends strength-wise from it, to be honest with you. Or even just a consistent diet, honestly, I would probably see dividends from it.
I think consistency is going to go a lot further than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. So, truth of the matter is there's some days I'm doing these workouts on 1,000 calories, and there's some days I'm doing these workouts on 4,000 calories.
Right.
And that's just not real good. Is that Jesus calling?
It might have been. Thought I had turned my silencer on. Okay.
But your diet, go ahead and elaborate on that since you didn't lift today.
So, no lifting. I started lifting Monday through Friday, mostly to coincide with my working schedule, so I didn't have to travel so far to get to the gym and stuff. But what I really want to talk about was the water cut and the diet that I had done leading up to this past week, I guess. I guess it was this week that I really started eating again because I kind of.
And you're in a surplus, not at maintenance, right?
I'm in a surplus for my current weight, but I'm not at a surplus for my target weight.
I got you. Makes sense.
It depends on how you want to look at it. But I really just want to talk about how what I felt like when I started dieting. I had gone down to carbs once a day, and it was potatoes, and that was the only carbs I ate for the majority of this diet. And I was losing weight, and I was losing weight fast. Not I guess nothing like super crazy, but it was several pounds a week. I know I lost 10 pounds in the first week.
Most of that probably water.
Most of it probably water, but as it went on, it was a little slower, but it was progressive and it felt good. And I felt like I looked better. Like I was losing in the places that I wanted to, not aggressively like I wanted to, but I went in, thinking I want a certain look. I wanted to be stage lean. That was the whole goal. And I was going to just hammer it out until I hit, I think I said if I was hit below 200, then I was going to cut it off no matter what happened. So then I was talking about it and I was like, well, I'm starting to feel weak. And that really upset me. Like I was just like not okay with as weak as I got. And I knew it was going to happen, there was going to be some drawback. I was going to lose some strength and I was okay with that. I knew I wasn't going to be able to go there and bench 400 pounds because I was in a calorie deficit, and that was fine. But it was really, I think it was when I started struggling to hit reps, 8 to 10 reps on stuff that I could do 20, 25 of.
Yeah.
And that was the point where mentally, it was like, you can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
So I decided, okay, I'm going to do a water cut, and then I'm going to eat again.
And you did Elizabeth's water cut.
I did Elizabeth's water cut, which, talking about that, I don't remember how much she talked about it, but it was 2 gallons of water for 3 days, a gallon of water for 3 days, and then a half a gallon of water on the last day. And being completely honest, everyone told me the water was the hardest part, but it was not. The water was super easy for me. I just chugged the water. I overdrank my water on a couple of the first 3 days. And then it was more of a struggle to not drink water on the last 4 days. The hardest part was just not eating carbs. And I say this, there were times where I thought I was going to have to quit because I would be at work and I would drop down and I'd get up too fast and I'd feel like I'm about to pass out.
Yeah.
Like I just felt like this is not safe for me anymore.
Right.
But I think when that happened, it was Thursday. So I was 4 days into it. So it was the first day where I had actually cut water down to a gallon. And I was like, the only reason why I'm going to make it through this is because I'm going to go home early today and I'm going to not come in on Friday. I'm not going to work Friday and I'm going to be off Saturday, Sunday. So I can survive this. So I really didn't do much anything activity wise. I don't think I even went to the gym that Friday. I don't know if I went to the gym that Thursday either. I just was like, if I'm going to do this diet, I can't lift because I'm going to pass out under some heavy weight or something. Well, it's not really heavy, but passing out
relatively for the situation.
For passing out with even just a 200-pound squat on your back is enough to kill you potentially.
Well, it's definitely enough to hurt you. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, the situation's not great.
So I just wanted to talk about that because I went from 233 to 199.9. That was the lowest that I got. And I talked about that on Instagram and I made a post. And I just wanted to say, when it comes to that, have realistic expectations, because I think I went in with unrealistic expectations of what I was going to look like at the end of it.
That's what I was going to ask. When you said the original goal was to be stage lean, did that redefine your expectations the whole process?
It gave me a lot more respect for bodybuilders and what they have to put themselves through to get to that point, because I don't think mentally I can handle not just the diet. The diet's hard, and it's probably one of the hardest parts of it. it may be the hardest part, but a close second is working out with that lack of carbs and that lack of food and just like trying to survive it and knowing that you can do so much more than that, but physically you can't because you're underfed and you're weak.
Yeah. That's hard on, we talked before about our, some of our self-esteem, which is not necessarily a good thing, but our self-esteem is tied to how many pounds or kilos are on a barbell.
Or how many reps you can
or how many reps you can do with it, do for it. That's, that kind of is what it is. Also, though, me and you talked about this before and after, but it takes a series of bulking and cutting and bulking and cutting to finally get to a point where, you are stage lean. I would have to say that the next time you choose to do this, you're going to be closer if you do it.
That's a big
but you'll be closer to that ideal body type the next time because you'll have built more muscle and you'll retain more muscle on the way down, and that's just the way it works. But also, me and but to elaborate to anybody that might be listening, and we don't know it in great detail, but just discuss the benefits of rebuilding from a lower body fat percentage, a lower body fat percentage, less food required for maintenance, stuff like that, because it has a pretty profound effect on your own hormones, exogenous hormones that you're taking. It has an effect on how your body processes food, how easily you put on muscle, and stuff like that. So the expectation here, obviously, is the next time you're in the 242 weight class, it's to be a bigger, stronger, more muscular version of that, right? Yeah. So if you want to elaborate on that and what your idea behind the whole thing is, because I said I kind of know, but people listening might not.
What do you mean, my idea?
I guess explain the whole idea of why bulking and cutting is a benefit to a powerlifter.
Oh, well, obviously, when you get heavier, like the more weight you put on, the more that's going to be fat. And then when you lose weight and you retain muscle mass, that your body fat percentage goes down. So the leaner you get, the less likely you are to get hurt. And you already said your own hormones, exogenous hormones
work better.
Yeah.
And then because of
your insulin sensitivity goes up.
Yeah, it's all tied to insulin sensitivity. Like, so for just an example, even if he was at his heaviest, his body's going to use insulin more effectively than mine does because I am a little bit taller than him, but relatively about the same frame person. But I am, right now 60 or 70 pounds heavier. So I am not going to, my body does not make as good a use of insulin or the exogenous hormones I use or my own hormones I use because I'm just simply fatter.
Yeah.
So the idea behind these cuts and bulks is to resensitize yourself basically to your own hormones you may be taking, and insulin, in hopes that the next time that you get to that weight, if you diet responsibly, you'll be a leaner version of your 242 than the last time you were at 242. And that's the hope, and that's really the only way to grow, continue to progress without moving up a weight class.
Yeah.
And I'm not 100% sure. We've talked about this. Moving up a weight class was detrimental to my deadlift for a little while until I lost weight and regained, because I was so fat the first time I was at 275 that I couldn't get in a good deadlift position.
Yeah.
It probably cost me. I know it cost me my first 600-pound pull. Mm-hmm. Because I just couldn't comfortably reach the bar.
Right.
So, there's a lot of things that go into it. And mobility, aside from all the things we just mentioned, is kind of one of them. The leaner you are at your desired weight class, the more mobile, the more athletic you're going to be. So, and obviously the more muscle versus fat is going to be on your frame. So there's a lot of reasons to do it. Outside of the way you look, I'm sure it feels good to look good.
Yeah.
But
I say that I know what.
But you have guys that grow into a new weight class all the time, and that's all well and good. But you also have these monsters that always compete at 181 or 198 or 220, and you wonder how they do it. Well, it's because every time they reach that weight cap, they're a little leaner, a little bit more muscular than the last time they reached that weight cap.
And they also are going to be better at water cutting at that point.
Yeah, I'll tell you who's a master of that is Joe Sullivan. Absolutely. His ability to manipulate his body weight and come back
and be
bigger
strong.
and leaner and be strong, both through a water cut and just through a regular dieting phase, coming on the other end of it. Man, that guy's got it down to a damn art.
It's like, well, the last time it was about 30 pounds.
Yeah.
Swing. It was like he weighed in at 220 or something, and he went in at 240 something.
Yeah.
It's like insane.
It is absolutely insane. Another master of that, and he just looks better than anybody anyway, but Ben Pollock's a master of that.
Ben Pollock's just
a master of all.
Yeah.
I mean, really, honest to God. But yeah, I mean, that's effectively, if you want to get better in your weight class, if you want to get more muscular, you probably should consider a series of cuts and bulks like that to grow into it and to get better. I think that, and I'm criticizing myself when I say that, but I think men are sometimes content as powerlifters to just be heavier, and that's not necessarily ideal.
Right. But it's one of those things. It's like you just don't want, like, this is how I felt going in. I was like, I don't want to lose all. I knew I was going to lose some strength. I didn't want to lose all of my strength just to look a little better. And I guess that's where it comes from, is like you're afraid that you're going to get weak. And I know it's going to come back. And I know it's like, it's not a thing. But in the moment, it feels a lot worse.
Yeah, it makes you feel like shit about yourself.
Yeah.
Because like you said, we're used to everybody. And, we work out in commercial gyms. I wish that we were in a powerlifting dedicated gym. But working out in a commercial gym, like, we're pretty used to being the strongest men in the room. And all of a sudden, when your average gym goer is not doing necessarily things close, but things that are similar, and you're looking over at them and you're looking at the weight on your bar, it just doesn't feel right.
Yep.
And that's not to say that there's anything wrong with anything anybody does, but like, not only have you set an expectation for yourself, but people are accustomed to seeing you destroy heavy ass weight. You know what I mean?
Well,
and make it look easy.
That was the one good thing about swapping gyms. Nobody knew me. So
there's
no what I was capable.
There's no expectation there right now.
Like, oh, this is just some 198 dude.
And I'm in the middle of my prep at this new gym that me and you were attending, and I just know come March when it's time to cut this weight off, and I go from pressing, 350 plus on the regular to pressing 200, that there's going to be some people that say, what the fuck's wrong with this guy?
They're going to look at it like, wasn't he doing like twice that?
Yeah, that's the guy that came and pissed on all of our fire hydrants, and he ain't shit now. Look at that loser.
And I guess to some extent, you kind of, when you lose that strength mentally, you think that, and maybe more you than anybody else.
I know it's more you than anybody else. Yeah, nobody gives that much of a fuck about what you're doing.
Some people.
I mean,
there's
other dudes definitely do. I dealt with
certain
some
types of them.
I told you it was very much that I benched 315 in high school type dude, but I dealt with some bravado the other day, and they were watching me warm up for bench, and they just started getting really, really snarky. They were hitting some back exercises, and they started getting really, really snarky and kind of mocking me about what I was hitting on my way up. And I'm a big believer when I'm warming up, like empty barbell and then one plate, I'm probably going to hit it for whatever I'm assigned that day.
Yeah.
And maybe I might go to 10 reps, especially with an empty barbell. But for the most part, I was pressing 6s the other day. So I did 10 with an empty barbell. I did 6 with a plate. And then most of the time, I'm going to bench like triples. As it gets a little heavier, I'll go to doubles. And then as it gets a little heavier, my last 2 or 3 warm-up sets will be singles.
Yeah.
So I was working up to 320 for a set of 6. And I got old man joints too. So I put my plate on there, throw it around a little bit. I always hit 185 because of my old man joints, like I said. Hit it for like 3, and that's when they kind of started getting snarky. Like, this guy's walking around like he's a badass, and he just like barely locking out 130, 185 because like old man joints. And then I put 2 plates on there, smoke it for a couple, 245 a hit for a single, 275 a hit for a single. When I hit that 275 for a single, I loaded up my working weight, and they were like, you could tell on their face, it was like, there's no way this fat motherfucker's about to press this. No way. He's not going to get it for 1. And then they had to watch me do it, for 6. So I was kind of like, eat shit and die. I was like, they shut up and went to the other side of the gym after they had to watch me do that. But I mean, that goes to say, you've heard me and Nathan say it before. Criticism like that, people picking on you in the gym like that, I wouldn't say they were picking on me, but people being judgmental, those comments only ever come from below they never come from above.
Yep.
People that are better than you or doing similar things to you, have similar goals, similar ideas in their head. They either don't care or they understand. Yeah, they're supportive. Yeah, that kind of stuff never comes from somebody that's physically stronger than you.
I mean, it might sometimes. It takes a real douchebag. I mean, we know of one specifically. You may not be on the same wavelength as me, but we both knew one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. There's always exceptions to that. But I mean, like, look on the internet, dude. First guy that's going to blow you up on your reel about your deadlift form, in your case, first person's going to blow you up about that. Probably don't. That kid didn't pull 4 plays.
Yeah.
And you pull 7.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those things like, meh.
Yeah.
The people that burned Heather Calvert up over her squat depth on that channel one time, they've never had that much weight on their back.
Right. They don't even know what it's
like. This is somebody absolutely talking shit that has a public page, and I can go watch their lifts and like, dude, you can't hold this girl's sports bra. Like, what the fuck are you, like, what the fuck are you criticizing her for? I think it's just it always comes from below, so it just is what it is.
You had something you want to talk about in the sports world today? Yeah,
absolutely. So somebody posted, Derek Thistlewaite posted this, but because he was in the top 10 of 2022. But in 2022, by dots, the top 3 were the first one was obvious, John Hack. The second one was Blake LaHoo, who I'm not familiar with really, to be honest with you. And the third was Alabama's own Jawan Garrison, who is an absolute terror at 181 and 198. That guy is a fucking sledgehammer. And it was just really, really cool. In 2022, his top 3 in dots in the world, and that was really fucking cool.
Yeah.
And that was by WRPF too. So that's not, of course they wouldn't be because, I mean, their dots just wouldn't be as good because they don't lift as much, but that's not including like IPF lifters, stuff like that. But I thought that was really cool because I haven't really met him personally or talked, but we have been each other's peer in the coaching realm and everything else. He's been around a lot of meets that I've been at, and he seems like a really nice guy. I know that he used to train at Ron's gym, so it just he's kind of right now, especially with Perseus being out of powerlifting. Him and Jawan and Ron and Jonathan Oldham, to me, those are kind of the hometown heroes.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a big deal, and I thought that was really, really cool.
Third in the world is insane
for 2022. I mean, that's not all, but still, I mean, it's
not all time, sure, but still, even for a year, like if someone told me, "Hey, you're third in the world for this year,"
that guy's not doing anything but getting better,
I'd be shitting my pants.
Who's been quiet talking about one of the best in the world is did Yuri Belkin compete at all this year?
I think so. I think he posted a recap from a meet. I think.
Or has the world finally caught the powerlifting world finally caught up with Yuri Belkin?
I mean, he's been very inactive on social media. He used to post on Instagram all the time, and I know I saw a couple posts of him recently. And what's sad is, and it's nuts. 800-pound deadlifts, that's nuts. But with people running around.
Derek Thistlewaite, 903 in competition, 870 squat. Dan Bell's 900-plus pound deadlift and a 1,100-pound squat. John Hack can name his number. Dan Grigsby can name his number. like there's
Dan Grigsby.
There are literally, there's 25 people, 30 people, 50 people maybe that pull over. That pull over 900 pounds now.
Yeah.
And there's a half dozen that pull over 1,000 consistently.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe it did surpass him a little bit. I don't know, but
and that may be why he's.
That used to be who everybody talked about being the dethroning Eddie Cohen as the greatest of all time, and I think he's probably pretty far down the list now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you just said John Hack by dots. I mean,
yeah,
I've always thought for the longest time, ever since I started following John Hack, I was like, this guy. He's probably the best.
He's a monster. And the biggest thing with him is. Boy, it sounds so stupid saying what I'm about to say. But I mean, he can name his number on deadlift. And he's a conventional puller, which is wild because there seems to be definitely sumo guys have passed,
Mhm.
passed him for sure. But his squat is, I mean, it's not average. It's it's an elite squat, but it's his bench press. Everybody wants to talk about his deadlift, but he's
He's bench pressing
he's a
600 pounds.
198 or 220, whatever he is now, and he has a 600-pound bench press.
Like
that is an equalizer that heavyweights don't have a 600-pound bench press. I mean, that's wild. I mean, that's really, really wild. I mean,
it's just hard to touch that.
It is. I definitely have a preference for saying the biggest total is the best in the world, in my opinion. So I kind of always look to Dan Bell.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, by dots, by Wilkes, whatever you want to measure, I mean, it's John Hack.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, just for his size and his strength, it's insane.
It is, absolutely. But the hometown hero, Jawan Garrison, top 3 in the world in 2022 in dots by WRPF standards. So
one day we'll be popular enough to have him on.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
That would be.
I do think he's moving out of the state, though. I'm not sure where or if he's even moved yet. But he trained down there at Maverick Barbell for a long time, and I think he trains in his apartment now. But
really,
yeah, he has a little home gym set up. But man, disgustingly strong. Just it's absurd how strong that guy is.
But gym songs. You got any PRs?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I kind of forgot about this segment for the first time ever.
The guy who made up the whole segment.
It is what it is.
I want to go ahead and say there's one that we should have had on there a long time ago.
Okay.
And that is "Pursuit of Power" by Shiva.
Oh yeah, you're about that one. I like that one too. It's a good song.
That song ripped.
It's not currently on any gym playlist of mine, which is probably it probably is a little sad. Yeah,
that
honestly,
song is so good.
What else you got?
Let's see. I'm gonna be a loser and just go more Shiva, but "God Complex" by Shiva.
Really sounds like you're on a kick right now.
I kind of put them on and just let it play through all their songs, and I was like, "Damn, these guys are good."
I hear you.
I'll do that. I'll like listen to a band like front to back for a whole gym session, and then I'll be like, "Man, why did I stop listening?" And I'll go in the next thing like, "Come on."
There's only one band I do that with, and most of the time it's on a deadlift day, and that's the Acacia Strain.
That's fair.
I like that, especially I like most of their stuff, but they just have a pace about them that just fit deadlifts well because they're not just blaringly fast like a lot of things we listen to. They're not. It's not slow paced either, but it's just a definite just not a happy pace. That's a bad word, but it's it's a kind of a medium pace, and it's just brutal because of that, and it just fits the deadlift game really well, in my opinion.
And it just hammers your face in.
It does. It so does. So those are your two?
Yeah, those are my two.
So I have, I think I have three. And with two of them, I'm taking it back a long time. But I'm going to go "Ashes in Your Mouth" by Megadeth.
All right.
That song fucking rips. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. It's definitely 80s thrash. Dave Mustaine gets on people's nerves.
He gets on.
And I get it. But that song absolutely rips. Second one's it's the second time I've named this band, but it's a cover. But it's Metallica's cover of "Am I Evil," which is originally a Diamond Head song.
Diamond Head.
Yeah. And it's immaculate.
Yeah. That
song is fucking awesome. And it also sticks to my theme of being loosely satanic. And then I'm going to give a total of 4. One that I listened to today when I was squatting, and I kind of forgot about it, also kind of satanic, is "Black Valor" by the Black Dahlia Murder. Yep. It's fucking awesome.
I can listen to just about all of their albums front to back.
That album in particular is Deflorate's.
Deflorate's good.
That's that album, and it's really, really good.
I think Nocturnal was the first one I listened to.
Yeah, it's good too.
Fell in love with it.
Yeah, Deflorate's the first one with Ryan not playing guitar on it, and it's just like a notch above everything previously. I like Nocturnal a lot too, but it just rips. And then I'm going to be a boneheaded Neanderthal and pick a hardcore song. Let me find out this actual. Hold a second. looking down the barrel of today by Hatebreed, fucking rips, and that's my final one. So, yeah, 4. So, looking down the barrel of today by Hatebreed, Am I Evil by Metallica, Black Valor by the Black Dahlia Murderer, and Ashes in Your Mouth by Megadeth.
Solid list.
It is a solid list, yeah. And I will listen to some old thrash.
Yeah.
It's important to not forget your roots.
Right.
And so there will always be, like, Metallica and Megadeth are always going to be 2 that could end up on my list.
Metallica, Slayer, and Anthrax for me.
Anthrax is Evil Twin. It's off a newer record.
Yeah.
Just fucking rips. That song's awesome.
I remember when it came out, my brother sent it to me and he was like, dude, you got to check this out. This is really good.
Yeah, that riff is awesome. And then, I mean, I'm a big Slayer fan, but I think my wife's probably a bigger Slayer fan than I am. It could start, everything from that era could start and end with Metallica and Megadeth, and I would be happy. But that being said, you know, huge Slayer fan. Probably a little less so Anthrax, but the big 4, can't go wrong with the big 4. I could honestly make a whole playlist dedicated to Pantera too, if you wanted to get,
honestly, Pantera is like, Pantera is one of those bands that a lot of people have started just recently making fun of because they're hardcore, you know. But it's like, nah, they were before the hardcore scene. They were.
I know a lot of hardcore boys that like them.
Yeah,
a lot of hardcore fans like them. And in my old age, I like hardcore more than I used to.
Yeah,
I catch myself listening to like Knocked Loose, Terror, Hatebreed. Kublai Khan is a hardcore band I like a lot right now. So I mean, I listen to way more hardcore than I used to, but always will be a metalhead first.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Absolutely.
So, meat and potatoes of the podcast. So, we were going to talk about the history, how we started, all that good stuff. Do you want to start or you want me to start?
You can start. Guide me through this a little bit and how you want to do it.
All right. So I got you. So, what I'm going to talk about first is kind of like what kind of pushed me into getting into the gym. So, I would probably say a large majority of young men, I think I was 18. I had no interest prior in the gym at all. I didn't really, I sat around and played video games. I ate Taco Bell. I didn't care. I never gained weight. I had a good metabolism. I was like, what's the point? Why would I go to the gym? I'm skinny. I had a pretty bad breakup. And it kind of put me in this, well, I'm going to show them. I'm going to show them all. I'm going to show them all. You know? And I was like, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to get jacked. And I was like, and you know, we've said this several times, you know, my aspirations was to look like Batman. Like I was like, I want to look so jacked that it looks like I can break people in half. And I knew very little. I knew so little. I was on bodybuilding.com, you know, like looking all their templates and stuff. I was cheap and poor. I didn't want to hire a coach, which biggest regret ever was not hiring a coach soon enough, because looking back, I had enough disposable income as a kid working full time, still living at home, to hire a coach that could have put me in the right direction. But
sure. A lot of us don't know that you can do that.
That's true. I mean, when you first get started, unless you go to a gym that offers it to you, like when you sign up. But I was just like, I'm going to do all the stuff. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I went in there, I was squatting on the Smith machine. Like I was benching 25 on each side and struggling with it. And like, you know, I was deadlifting horribly, you know, like, but that's what the program that bodybuilding.com said to do. So that's what I did.
Right.
And so a lot of that started because of a breakup.
Yeah.
And I knew that I wanted to stick with it. And that was the only thing. I kept going back. I was like, I don't really like this, but I like the thought of the end result. So I'm going to keep going. And I kept going and I kept going and I kept going. And eventually kind of just started to like it, which is funny because, do you remember Bishop?
Yeah.
he's in that same boat. Like when he first started, he was like, it was because of a breakup. It was when he really started getting in the gym. He was like, I don't really like it, but I'm going to do it because I know I need to lose weight. About 2 or 3 months ago, he was like, I just really like going to the gym. And it's kind of like, it's one of those things that it's kind of like, man, I'm seeing this, what I saw. I wish I would have had what you have, because you have me to talk to fix things, but I didn't have that when I first started. So it's kind of like a cool thing. But that's really kind of like what got me started in the gym, was just bad breakup. What got you started?
I was actually older. I kind of had a separate experience. I had anorexia when I was a teenager. I don't remember ever really coming out of that, but I had about a year stint in high school where I was trying to go to the gym and really had no guidance. Mm-hmm. And because I was already playing music professionally, had band practice and school and worked and everything like that, it kind of just dropped by the wayside, and I just kind of let it go and just didn't do it. So it was actually, before I actually got serious about it, I was well into college. I was in my final semester at Wallace, and I was a smoker, was a borderline alcoholic, busy college kid, worked full time, went to school full time. A lot of things going against me, but I remember being in a building there, and I don't remember what building at Wallace it was, but I remember walking up a flight of stairs, and they were segmented, right? So you walked up to a platform, and then they turned around and went. And I got to the first platform, and I was like, "God damn, I need a cigarette." I couldn't breathe. Like, you know what I mean? My first thought was, I need a cigarette, and that like sat with me for a while. Really kind of disturbed me in a way, and then went on about my day and didn't think about it for several more months. But then I got to feeling like shit one day, didn't really know why, and happened to stop at one of those blood pressure kiosks at like Walmart, or we didn't have a Publix back then, so it was like Walmart or Kmart or Walgreens or some shit like that. CVS. And my blood pressure was like, I'm 22 or 23, and my blood pressure was like 160 over 110. And at that time, I was a little smaller than I am now, but it was all fat. I weighed about 260 pounds, fat and fucking miserable. And I'm like, I saw that and I was like, holy fuck, I'm going to fucking die.
Right.
And to be completely honest, probably a couple months, more months passed. And I went to, I'm not a video game player, but a good friend of mine who we hope to have on the podcast, Stephen Barnett, always been built like a brick shit house, man. I mean, he's like, always been a fit guy. He's always been somebody I looked up to. But he and I went and watched the St. Louis Philharmonic play the entire score of all the Final Fantasy games. Me and him and his dad went, and I just, for whatever reason, felt compelled to kind of start talking to Steven about fitness and what he did and how he did it and everything like that. And there's this big, strong dude I looked up to. He was really important at the time of the music scene, semi-professional wrestler, super athletic guy. And I kind of just hung on to every word he said. Like, I listened to everything he said. And I was like, fuck, I'm not sure that I can do this, but I know for a fact that I need to do this. Because just that night with him and his dad, at the time, despite his athleticism, Steven was still a smoker. His dad was a smoker. I was a smoker, and we all drank like fish. So, we're out in St. Louis getting hammered and drawing down cigarettes, as fast as we can drink a drink, we're smoking a cigarette, right? So, but Steven kind of stuck with me. And then a couple of nights later, my little brother was in the military at the time, and I talked to him on the phone, and he was like, he had gotten in shape to go into the military and stayed in shape because of the military initially. And then that was his introduction to fitness. Mm-hmm. And he was like, man, for what you're doing, for what you need to do, because of your blood pressure, because of your fitness level being 0, he was like, you should really try CrossFit. And I didn't know what the fuck CrossFit was. But another guy that's really, really close to me, also I met in the music scene, Dakota Aaron, who will always be, I credit Dakota and Shea Butts unfortunately, Shay's no longer with us, but I credit Dakota and Shay Butts for saving my life because they were the original founders of CrossFit 256. And in the beginning of that, when I started working out with Dakota, we worked out in the back of Health Fit and like the functional training area. And we worked out at Holly Pond High School's track. And I remember my first workout with him. I didn't drink any water. I slammed a couple of Slim Jims and some Diet Mountain Dew. And on my way home, I puked every bit of that shit up. And I had some like, it's cross training. So I had some like body weight squats and push ups and like in between you like ran a lap around the track. No. And it about fucking killed me. And I was hooked. And it wasn't necessarily CrossFit. I would learn later, but it was just that dopamine dump, those endorphins, everything like that. I was like, fuck, I like this. I can do this. Went home, really enthusiastic, talked to, we wasn't married at the time, but talked to Sandy about it. And she's like, you know what? I'll do it too. And we just stayed with Dakota and Shay through the inception of CrossFit 256. And that was how I got started. So
well, that's a good story.
Yeah.
I didn't know about the puking up Slim Jims part.
Yeah, I was a dumbass. He's like, you need to hydrate. Make sure you eat something. And my go-to was like, oh, I'll just chug a couple of 20-ounce Diet Mountain Dews and some Slim Jim. And that was a fucking mistake, bud.
Well, I guess you learned by fire, right?
Yeah, puking that shit up wasn't fun.
Oh, I imagine it was.
And I was a dumbass too. And anybody that's ever done something really intense like CrossFit will tell you this. You sit down in your truck or car automatically and you jag the air conditioner up and roll up the windows. That's a recipe for puking.
Oh, really?
You just need to roll them windows down, cruise at whatever temperature it is outside for a little while because that's a shock.
Yeah.
And between that and my poor diet choices, I just got so sick on the way home. Puked all that shit up. So that's how I got started.
That's cool. So I guess next we'll go into like, for me, kind of just like, when I got started, I was doing all these things that I didn't really know anything. And I was doing that for probably, let's see, when did I join Anytime Fitness?
I don't remember. I think you were there before I started.
I was.
I started in December of 2017. So.
It was, you remember when they opened?
I think it was 2015 or 2016. I don't remember. 2015, I think.
2015-ish. So that's when I left Health Fit, because I worked out at Health Fit too for a good bit. And that place, we'll just not talk about it because it was a hive of scum and villainy. A breeding pool of disgust. I don't know how else to put it, to be honest. But anyway, so I joined Anytime Fitness. I was noticeably different than when I first started, but also I was always like 180 pounds.
Yeah.
Like I was always 170, 180 pounds. I could never gain weight. I didn't know why. I did everything I thought I was supposed to do, which was chicken, broccoli, and rice. And
turns out that's not fucking very good for somebody that weighs 170 pounds.
Yeah. I was like chicken, broccoli, and rice and salads and like trying to eat healthy. That's what you're supposed to do. To be strong and healthy, right? You're just supposed to eat. And I didn't know any better. I really didn't.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the way most of us should be eating.
Yeah. But little did I know, because my metabolism was so high, I was just burning through all that. I wasn't getting any stronger. I wasn't putting on any muscle. I was just maintaining what I had and being a pretty low body fat percentage. I mean, I never got fully like developed abs, but it was getting pretty close at my leanest, which was like 178 or 179 or something like that. It was close enough to just say 180. And I loved going to the gym so much that it was a detriment to my relationship at the time. I had convinced her to start going, and she went with me somewhat. It was more often than not, but not all the time. But it wasn't her thing. It really wasn't her thing. And I can say that with 100%, she would only go to be with me. She didn't give a shit about the gym.
Right.
So it was, I don't know, it was like 2017, 2018 when you started.
27 in December of 2017.
So yeah, so it was probably around 2018 when I first got introduced to you. And I was still with her at the time, and we had talked briefly about powerlifting, and I didn't know anything about it. And you were like, you should join our powerlifting group. And I was like, I don't know anything about this. Why would I join a powerlifting group? You know, he was like, well, you do some barbell stuff. You squat, bench, and deadlift. You can be a powerlifter. That's all you got to do. And I was like, I don't know. I'll think about it. And then one day I was just like, I'll just go ahead and join. It was just a Facebook group, if you remember that. And started looking at it, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. You know, I liked it, and started, you know, looking into it. At the same time, the John, who I will not mention his last name, was also trying to get me to start bodybuilding. And I don't know if I ever told you that, but he was like just absolutely shit bashing powerlifting, because he was like, you want to get fat and strong, or do you want to look like, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was someone's statue. Like, what is the most common?
Adonis or somebody like that. Greek statue, though.
So, yeah.
Jack Greek statue.
Yeah.
They're all the fucking same.
They really all do look the same. Anyway, basically he was trying to make it seem like bodybuilding was just a superior thing.
Side note, I physically had to remove him from that gym on his departure. So he got all his fat powerlifter he needed on his way out, as the fat powerlifter carried him out of there.
Yeah. which is another story entirely for another day. But yeah, so and it was kind of like they were trying to pull me in both ways, but it was interesting because even at the time when he said that, I was like, well, I'd rather just be fucking strong. And I was far away from being a fat, strong person. You know, I wasn't like crazy strong. I had a good bench press, but I wasn't like strong, and I was thin. You know, I was lanky. That was just my body type. But at any rate, I was just like, yeah, I just want to be strong. And he was like, well, then eat a bunch of fucking cheeseburgers from McDonald's. I was like, I hate McDonald's. Why? I don't even like McDonald's. But anyway, it was kind of like my start into powerlifting was kind of getting to know you, and then the dogs just must have heard that.
Welcome to our special guests,
Lily and Tinley, probably. But anyway, I was talking about powerlifting, and so fast forward a little bit. That was kind of like my introduction to you, and I didn't know you that well, but we talked a little bit here and there, and so it was, I believe, 2019. I think it was close to the middle. It was like July of 2019, and I had been married, and it was on our anniversary that my ex decided that she no longer wanted to be with me, and she told me that, and it was really, really hard, and it broke me. Like I couldn't function, and at the time, I felt like there was nothing worth anything. In spite of all that, I still went to the gym because it was one of my happy places. You know, I would my whole cycle during this, it was probably like a several month period, was go to work, go to the gym, go home. And that was it. And the only time I had any interaction with people was at the gym. There were, and I didn't mean to take it down this road, but there were a lot of times where I thought about killing myself. Yeah. Because I was so broken and so devastated, and I just didn't understand how someone I trusted so much could just hurt you so badly. And it was a couple weeks or maybe a month after, and I came to you. I actually got into the trainer's office and I was like, I don't know what I need to do. I don't know what it's going to take, but just tell me what to do so I can, get strong and get huge. Because I'm obviously not doing something right. I need a change. I need something because my life is in shambles. And I remember telling you that we were getting, we were separating at the time. And I remember specifically, and I think I mentioned this last time, that you took me to go get food. Just like immediately, you're just like, we're going to go get some food. And we went, we got food, and we sat down, we talked about a plan a little bit. And you said, I'm just going to give you a plan. And I'm not going to charge you anything. And just, let me know how it goes, basically. And I started it. And that is when I started powerlifting.
Yeah. I remember that pretty well. That's some parallels, because that was a rough year for me, for sure, for a lot of different reasons.
But your introduction to, I guess you can go through a little bit of your CrossFit and then introduction.
Yeah. So on and off, and we'll need to tag him because he's a dear friend of mine, and I'd like him to listen to this, just so he knows, partially what he means to me. But I already mentioned Dakota and Shay. So about the time I start that, me and Sandy moved to Athens. Still trying to go to CrossFit 256 about once a week, just to be with our gym family, stuff like that. But by and large, I'm in a situation at this point where CrossFit implements aren't available to me, but I went to UNA, and we had a really awesome student center gym. And it's just, what you would probably describe as a commercial gym now. But that was my introduction to strength training. And one of my fellow classmates, who ended up being a really good friend of mine and ended up being my roommate too, when I moved to Philadelphia, Jake Woods, said, you know what, man, I'll do this shit with you. So he started dabbling in CrossFit in his spare time. But most of our workouts were, we would run as far as we could on the treadmill, and then we would go strength train to the best of our ability in the student center gym right there. Afterwards, we'd grab a protein shake or a bite to eat, and we did that between classes all the time. Now, the bad habit I had was whenever we got done working out, we were in a pretty bad habit of getting shit canned before the late night classes. I showed up to more classes drunk than I care to admit in my college career. But yeah, me and him just really spent a lot of time together and dedicated ourselves to the gym. And despite my shitty diet and drinking habits, because I was so sedentary for so long, between that and CrossFit, I really started changing. I started putting on some muscle. Wasn't losing a ton of weight, but I slimmed down. I went from about 265 to probably low 240s. So I lost, 20 pounds or so. And, that went down for a while. Through my entire experience at UNA, I'm splitting time between CrossFit 256 and the student center gym there at UNA, and just kind of doing the best I could with it. But I did it every day. I never quit. It's my day to work out. I got to go work out. That's what I'm doing. That led to me and Sandy investing in a squat rack that we kept in our spare bedroom at our apartment. And I knew I was kind of weak. So I just started. It wasn't because I wanted to be a powerlifter, but I basically just started working on squat, bench, and deadlift, overhead press, and power cleans in my apartment because of my introduction to CrossFit. That's kind of all I knew. Right. So it was front squat, back squat, deadlift, power clean, a couple of different types of presses, and didn't really know what accessory work was at that point. But we'd do like a little bodyweight metcon. We might go to the Athens Park and run a lap and do some push-ups or take a jump rope or whatever it was. So me and Sandy did that, and then we dedicated ourselves to the paleo diet, and things really started kind of clicking for me. So fast forward to my senior year, and I have to go, this would have been fall of 2013, going into the spring of 2014. I find out that I got awarded an internship at Relapse Records, the heavy metal record label in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania. Found out about that just a week before Christmas. Found out I'm going to be moving, January 1 to a brand new state, brand new city. Didn't have anybody to go with. My buddy Jake Woods, who I've been working out with this whole time, said, fuck it, I found an internship up there too. I guess we're moving to Philadelphia. And sold everything I owned with the exception of my music equipment. And me and Jake hit the old dusty trail and went up there. And then my first introduction to really powerlifting, bodybuilding, a real gym. I'm not disparaging CrossFit, but whole time we were working up there, we worked at a little 24/7 gym in the city center, probably 10 blocks from our house or so. There were some former IFBB pros that owned it. They were super nice guys, super jacked. They're just huge dudes. And everybody that came in that gym, they were just happy to see. So they were just they didn't care. I couldn't bench press 2 plates or anything else. They were happy to see us every time we came in there. And those guys were so encouraging. So Jake, through his research, we were always on YouTube back in those days. He found Elliot Hulse, and we wasn't really doing CrossFit. So Elliot Hulse had a whole video talking about squats and milk. It's like, hey, do this. You'll get fucking strong. And me and Jake said, hey, well, we can do this. We can do a set of 20. At the time, I had a good motor because I've been doing CrossFit. So like, set of 20 then wasn't near as bad as a set of 20 is to me now. So we did that, and we got a lot stronger. And I don't remember what our numbers were. They were modest, I'm sure. I might have been able to squat 315 coming off of that or whatever. But we did that the whole time. I lived in Philadelphia, worked out there, had a good time, spent a lot of time together. And then when I got home, I moved back to Coleman, moved in with Sandy's parents for a little while before we bought a house. And then just started working out at CrossFit 256. And that led to me being a CrossFit coach and kind of put a pause on strength-specific sports for a little while. Mm-hmm. So that's the next part of my story. Mm-hmm. So I
think you can go ahead because...
Can we go ahead and elaborate?
Yeah, go ahead and I
probably have a longer story.
You do have a lot longer. Mine's pretty simple.
So yeah, I got in the CrossFit realm, and I just never had a motor. I'm a bigger dude, and by all means, conditioning was coming easier to me because I was doing it so much. But at that time, coming back from Philadelphia, what I discovered is all that bodybuilding and powerlifting stuff. I didn't even know that that's what it was called at the time, but all the strength training stuff that I was doing really paid dividends when I got back to CrossFit, because all of a sudden I can do weight that's prescribed in the workout. I can power clean a little bit more than most of my peers. Started becoming not elite in terms of strength, but one of the better ones in terms of strength at the gym. And just kind of kept riding with that. And I always tried to make time for the strength side of things and not just doing what was on the board. Mm. So, CrossFit is on the board. It might say run 5K. The next day it might say find a 1 rep max overhead squat. It's anything, right? So, but every day I decided to start dedicating myself a little bit more to strength. Went to CrossFit Mayhem, got CrossFit certified, started coaching classes. And that went on for a while. And I started, all the while, I'm getting more and more involved in the programming side of strength stuff. And it was a lot of just copying other people at this point. But I'm starting to experiment with the Texas method, Wendler 531, squats and milk was always a staple. I used an Olympic program called Hatch Squat, which is really for front squat, back squat, and overhead press. Started messing around with that stuff a lot. And I really, especially in my deadlift, I really started separating myself from everybody but about a half dozen guys. You know what I mean? About a half dozen of us starting to develop some decent strength. Anyway, my wife, Tam Strong, and another girl who was the second owner of CrossFit 256. This is after Dakota had left. Actually, she would have been the third owner. Decided they wanted to do a powerlifting meet, and because I was the only person that understood how to set up a powerlifting program, they were like, "We need you to program this." Well, I did, and everybody went and won. And there's a guy that's a good friend of mine still, Gage Day, that was at the time, he was just enormously strong. He went on. It was Austin and Curtis's first meet too. Oh, yeah. But Gage went on to squat 500, had a 340 pound bench press, and deadlifted high fours. So they were modest to us now, but in the world of CrossFit, that was this guy's fucking strong. Right. You know what I mean? Nobody was had a 500 pound back squat at my gym. You know what I mean? So I think before Gage, I was probably the best squatter in it. Well, other than Adam Campbell, but he was kind of in between. He was a different owner, but who's responsible for me getting into this a lot too, because he kind of got into powerlifting a little bit before I did. But other than Adam, who's just enormously strong, I was kind of leading the way on those three things. So I said, you know what, I kind of like this. I'm gonna start doing this, and started programming myself, and slowly started making my way away from CrossFit little by little. And then I started kind of discovering some imbalances created by CrossFit, also created by the fact that, we really wasn't doing accessory work. We were just going there doing our CrossFit Metcon, and afterwards we were doing our barbell, and that was it. So I kind of started messing around with, how can I do lat pull downs? How can I do this? How can I do that or whatever? How can I get better at these lifts? And it led to a strength specific class. And then that was really kind of successful for a little while, had a lot of people in it. And then ultimately led to me programming all the Metcons for the gym. They had a strength bias, but it was a weak gym. Like when they would go to competitions, they would get beat on like the clean and jerk ladder. The winner would clean and jerk 325 pounds. Our guys would clean and jerk 225 pounds. They were blowing them away on runs and stuff like that, but they'd get the strength stuff and they'd just get dusted. So I started programming CrossFit Metcons with a strength bias, and got more involved in coaching. And that gym in particular was had a very attaboy mentality. Like, everybody's doing good, you're doing great. But there was never any criticism. There was never like, hey, you could do this better. Hey, you could do that better. So when I started taking this stuff really seriously, I wanted to start breaking down people's squat and being like, hey, let's fix this. Let's do this. Or when somebody snatch or clean and jerk, I was like, hey, we can do this better. Can we break this down? And because of the culture they had built, people took offense to it. Like, bad offense to it. It's not me being an asshole. It was me being like, we can make the whole gym better if we do this. And that ultimately led to me getting kicked out of that gym. So, and then I shopped around for a little while, ended up working out at Anytime Fitness, probably August or September before I got hired there. And that was my complete transition into powerlifting.
So that was about the time where my story left off. A little after that, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess really what happened after I had talked to you, I started that program that you gave me. I can't remember. I know it was one that you wrote for one of your other clients, but to me, it didn't matter. It was something.
Yeah. I actually think it was, to be honest with you, I think it was my pirated, hacked up, butchered version of Shaco.
It may have been.
But
I know I had one of
the red, green, and blue spreadsheet.
I had one of those. I don't know if that was the first one, but I definitely did have that one at some point. But either way, it didn't matter. It just mattered that I had something. I had something to work towards. And you told me, hey, you might not have said it this bluntly, but you're like, you're skinny. If you want to get stronger, you're going to have to eat more. And that was the first time anyone had, other than people ridiculing me.
Yeah.
It was the first time.
Positive criticism.
Yeah. It was the first time from someone who knew what they were talking about, basically saying, hey, you need to eat some more food. It's like, okay. It's like, I can do that. I was like, what do I need to eat? And he's like, well, how big do you want to get? So I remember the first time, I think I took a picture. I had like 10 massive plates of food that I had meal prepped. And I was just like, this is the beginning. It was 180, 190 when I started. It didn't take long at all. When I started eating and I started following your programming, it was like all of my barbell stuff shot through the roof. I was gaining weight super fast. I think I went from 180 to like 210 in months. Like, it did not take long at all. And it was the craziest part of it was that was at the time, that was a natural, like I wasn't taking anything except some supplements from Redcon 1,
food and hard work,
and just what you programmed me. And it was, I remember specifically my squat got tons better because I was squatting my bench press.
I remember you. I actually think I remember you hitting like 295 for one on bench, and you squatted only like two.
Yeah,
It was
I think
literally
285 for two.
It was literally they were within pounds of each other and only like a rep or two different.
Yeah. And I was,
but you had a big bench, to be honest. You trained up to a big bench.
It's probably because I loved bench press and I love doing all the upper body work. Yeah. That was just like, I loved it. Bicep curls, triceps.
Yeah, you always had massive arms as long as I knew you.
Yeah, even skinny, you could see that, like, my arms looked like nothing. I there's a lot of kids like that who are real skinny, but when they flex, you see their bicep pop, and it's like, where did that come from? Yeah. And I was one of those kids. But anyway, it was a huge, I put 300 pounds on my total, in 3 months. Like it was. Yeah, probably sub 1,000 to what you ended up totaling in that first meet. And the meet was
385 squat.
385 squat, 325 bench, and a 535 deadlift. And that was coming from a 295 bench, a 285 squat, and a 385 deadlift.
Yeah, I remember the first time you pulled 400 because it was a mock meet. Huh? So
it was
maybe it's 455.
450. I failed 455 at the very it was 475. I failed at the very top. It ripped my hand open. And that was kind of like welcome to powerlifting, right?
Just get kicked in my ass.
I mean, it was a good day and I had fun. But it was, I remember that callus just completely ripped off, took the barbell took the callus, and it was just blood. And I was just like, I remember looking at it, I was like, I'm going to take a picture of this so I remember this.
The pride you feel when you rip your hand.
It sucks ass, but it's like I worked. Like there was so much weight that it literally ripped the skin off of my hand.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a weird pride thing. You don't want to do it, especially in prep.
Yeah,
you don't want to have a hand tear, but it is funny what we think is cool.
Right. But going back a little bit before the meet, we had the mock meet, and really what got me was just the community, because we had a really good community at one point, and it was super healthy. Everyone was very supportive, and it didn't matter what you were doing as long as you were trying, and you were, they were always there to help you and give you good feedback. And I fell in love with it because it felt like I was home. Like it felt like a second home to me.
Yeah, same. I don't understand that.
And it was that's what really, and I was like, man, is all of powerlifting like this? And eventually I found out not all of it is like this, but powerlifting in general is a really supportive sport.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that on our rivalry episode. I mean, you don't want the worst out of that. You want that guy's best.
Yeah.
You want to support him because you want to beat his best supported effort. Yeah. I mean, I've seen it get a little chippy. But all hugs and laughs after, when the meet was over.
And I think I may have mentioned it. The one kid that was in the closest competition I had at the last meet, even though it was a little chippy and stuff and warm-ups, at the end of it, I was like, hey, dude, you're fucking strong. Good job today. And he was like, you too, man. We shook hands, and like, it wasn't, there was
no malicious, nothing like that.
And that's one of the things that I really like about the sport, and that's the reason why I've stayed in it for so long. I mean, I love being strong, and going back earlier to the episode, that's a huge thing for me now. Is like mentally, I have to be strong. If I'm not strong, what am I?
Right.
I'm nothing. So, but where was I going with that? I was talking about the prep for the first meet. Well, the mock meet, and then we did the mock meet, and you were talking about all your girls and you, well, not all of your girls, but a couple of your girls, and you were doing a meet in March.
It was
March of
February. It was February. February 1st.
Yeah, of 2020. And you said you should go, and I was like, man, I'm so weak. Like, I'm not going to do anything. You were like, don't matter. Just go out there and put a total on the board. And I was like, what have I got to lose? You know,
He ended up doing pretty fucking good.
well,
First meet.
in fairness, you know, it was a small meet, but
Yeah, second biggest deadlift of the day, though, right?
second or third. I know a lot of the big guys missed a lot of theirs because they overshot really bad. But we eventually I came to the decision, even though, and the biggest thing for me, and it wasn't really even the going part, was the money part. Because, you know, being recently separated, I inherited all of the bills.
Yeah.
So I had no extra money. And it was kind of like a struggle. It's like, man, I don't know where I'm going to find this money. And I decided, you know what? I'll get my tax money or whatever. I can use some of that to pay for it. It'll be fine. And I went ahead and did it. I got my belt and my sleeves and my singlet, and I was really cheap and bought the cheapest stuff I possibly could because I didn't have a lot of money. And I was just like, this is going to have to do. And I look back at it very fondly. Just the whole everything, everybody being there, and it was really, really good for me to actually get to that point, to get to the meet. And I'll talk about the meet in a minute, but I want you to go ahead and catch up a little bit.
So, I start working out at any time on my own. I'm pretty much 100% into some powerlifting program at this point. Probably brought about a 1,200 pound total with me to any time. And it was modest at the time. I'm still squatting high bar. Still not a very good bench presser, especially for my size. But still, about a 1,200 pound total. And anyway, a little ways into that, they caught wind. Actually, my boss at my job I was at was friends with the training manager at Anytime. And both of them knew I was certified. And she asked me if I wanted to pick up some work part-time. And I said, yeah. So, I got in it and started training there. A couple months later, got my personal training cert. I had the CrossFit cert, but I went ahead and got my personal trainer cert too. And then, immediately my mind is like, well, now that this could potentially be a career, like I have to build not necessarily my brand, but I have to build my culture. And it was really important. So like all of a sudden, like I'm, not only is powerlifting just something I do, but now this is
your whole life.
Now this is, at least at that point, a good portion of it. It wasn't my whole life at that point, but I was like, it's time to hire a coach. I hired my first one, who I won't mention his name because it wasn't the greatest experience. But I got a little bit stronger, working with him, and it was a good experience. And all the while, I'm starting to build clientele that are successful at what they're doing. They're losing weight, they're getting stronger, they're doing everything that you want. General fitness stuff at first that you want clients to do. And and I'm getting stronger too, like kind of a parallel. So, it came, I kind of had the idea of, Anytime Fitness does these boot camps once a month, like why can't we do a powerlifting clinic or a powerlifting class once a month? We'll just go over basic rules of the powerlifting meet. We'll talk about basic technique stuff. And basically it'll just be 10 or 15 of us working out together. And I did that, and I kind of, the place kind of started building, or at least the people that were around me, we kind of started building a culture for that. And it motivated me even more. So I went and, after a brief hiatus and not a hiatus from training, but a hiatus with a coach, went on and hired Brandon Allen, who was just a remarkable coach. And I learned so much about powerlifting, and so much about programming, and so much about what I was capable of, because that guy would not, Brandon was never a bully. He was always a nice guy. But if you were being a pussy, he'd be like, quit being a pussy. Mm-hmm. Like, he pushed me in ways I just didn't think I didn't know I was capable of those things. And slowly but surely, I kind of start moving more and more of my people toward that. First of all, you kind of lead by example, right? They're seeing me do it, and they were like, hey, how do you, when I first get up over 3 plates on bench press, you have more and more people ask you, how'd you do that? Like, what can I do? Can you help me do that? Can you do this? Can you do that? And then, at that time, my deadlift was getting pretty big. So people would watch me deadlift in the gym, and they're like, you need to, show me how to do that. What do I need to do? Like, I think I might be interested in powerlifting. So I kind of started building a culture and started building not necessarily a following because that's unfair because I feel as though those people are my equals. I learned as much from my clients as I did from myself or anything else I did. But anyway, I started working with Brandon and things started really, really clicking. And for me, that answers my bad year, which you've already kind of alluded to. It's 2019. I had an uncle that was really, really close to me pass away in April of that year. And it's kind of weird to say, but I don't have I didn't have a lot of my family that really believed in me, right? Like, not that they were like ever negative about it, but it was like, growing up playing music for a living, it was always, you're not going to make your living. I did make my living for a while doing that, but they were like, you're never going to make a living doing that. You need to go to college for this. And then when I wanted to pursue this thing, it was like, well, you're never going to make a living doing that. You can't do this seriously. Go do this, or you're going to get hurt lifting heavy weights. Like, you're never going to be good at this. That guy was the only guy that was like, fuck yeah, man, do it. You can do it. Like, so that was hard. And it pissed me off. So, at this time I'd already been hanging out with my best friend, Justin, for a little while. Justin was enormously strong, due in part by the fact that he was always an athlete, but also he was, he had some rough moments in his life. And, without disclosing too much information, he had several years where the only thing he could do was work out. Yeah. And he was just enormously strong, man. So, if I bench pressed 315, he was bench pressing 405. If I was deadlifting 500, he was deadlifting 6. If I was squatting 4, he was squatting 5. The whole time he's always ahead of me, way more athletic. And he really made me a lot better, like a lot better because like a lot like Randy, my uncle, Justin, I mean, me and him's become friends. This guy that's a lot better than me for whatever for God-forsaken reason, this guy believes in me too. Like, and Sandy always did too. She believed I could do it, but it's different having some male validation athletically. It's just from an athletic standpoint. But Justin was like, fuck yeah, man, you can do this. So I'm working out with him. I've got Brandon coaching me. A lot of the good things going for me. And I'm training you guys. Several others that were just enormously strong, at least at the time to me. Especially my girls were just getting ridiculously strong. And I trained for the same SPF meet that you did. I think I had done the mock meet. I don't remember what I pulled. I think I pulled something modest. I pulled like 540 at the mock meet. Mm-hmm. I had to edge out somebody else to get there, and it felt good. And
if you want to go specifics, I remember specifics of that day, and it was 495 for both of you guys' second pull, and he pulled 500 for his third.
No, so what happened? It was actually a little bit different than that. You're close. I opened with 475, and he opened with 455. Mm-hmm. He moves up his next attempt. I moved my next attempt up to I don't know. I guess it was 500 even is what it was. Cause I remember what he pulled, or it may have been like 510 or something, but, I moved up with that and smoked it. His second attempt, he goes 475, 480, pulls it pretty good. And then this guy, he out benched me and I out squatted him. So we're basically neck and neck at this point. And, he, for my last number, I call it 540. And he was smart. I got to give it to him. But he was 100% betting that I was going to fail that. So he makes a jump from 480 to like 505 to edge out my second attempt to beat me. He literally, his plan was, I'm going to beat this guy by 5 pounds because there's no way he pulls this 540. Mm-hmm. And, just fury got to me, I guess. And I smoked the 540. Like, yeah. Honestly, God, I probably could have pulled 600 that day. But I pulled the 540 and I beat him. Ended up beating him kind of considerably because my squat ended up being a lot better. But I wouldn't have had I not pulled that 540. I think I beat him by 60 or 70 pounds. But anyway, that was enough for me to win. And that went really well. So we all trained for the meet. And I'm a dumbass, didn't listen to my coach. A week out from the meet, I got under a squat, heavier than what was programmed. I got out of pocket. My groin made this most minute pop in the bottom of that squat. I shut it down that day. Said we're not going to worry about it because it didn't physically bother me. You know what I mean? That bad. It popped in the bottom. It was a little sore, but it wasn't like I'm real bad injured. Fast forward to meet day. Smoke my first squat, get under my second one, and tear my groin, a grade 2 strain in my groin, grade 2 strain in my bottom right abdominal. This is my first meet day experience as an athlete. So that's I think that brings us back to the same. I think we're on the same timeline now. So that's basically where I've left off.
Yeah. So February 1st, 2020. Mm-hmm. It was the very first meet that I done. Was it the first? It was your first athlete?
It was my first as an athlete. Yeah.
So I guess we did the same meet. I didn't even realize that was the same first meet technically.
Yeah.
And at least as an athlete, but yeah. So I remember that day. I remember driving up there. It was a little early. I remember messaging a few of the people that were going up there who well. Just not talk about it. But there's a few of them from that group that we just don't talk about anymore. But anyway, I was talking to them. I was a little nervous. I was a little excited, a little weirdly at the same time a little indifferent because I didn't really know how to feel, I guess.
Yeah.
Going into it and got ready, did our first squats, and I remember getting. I think I got done with my second squat. And you were a few attempts later, and I remember when you tore your groin, and my heart sank, and like I didn't know, like I remember seeing Justin like kind of walk you off, and not to bash anyone, but spotters were not there. They did not help.
Yeah, they left me sleeping on the bar for a long time. Damage was, in fairness to them, the damage was done. But I sat on that bar for what seemed like an eternity. It was only 3 or 4 seconds, but
it was noticeable. It was weird because nobody reached for the bar. It was a whole, just like the whole thing felt like it didn't actually happen. Like it was a fantasy. But when reality kind of set in, I kind of like, I ran into the bathroom and with you and Justin, and I was like, I don't know what you need, but I'm here if you need something. And you were just in pain. You couldn't really function.
Bad pain. It's fucking rough.
Yeah. I remember we were all just kind of like, we'll do what we can. We just need to know what we need to do. And, it ended up being like whiskey and some.
Yeah, so my buddy Sonny had a bottle of whiskey with him. My mom had just had knee surgery, so mom had some Oxycontin, and Sonny had a bottle of Jack Daniels in his truck. I took the Oxycontin, drank about a half bottle of that, turned down about a half bottle of that Jack Daniels, and went right back in and coached y'all. And I don't remember much else from that day.
I remember a few things. I remember my bench press. I remember missing my third, but I was a little disappointed in that. But it was only 10 pounds more than my second attempt, so it wasn't like a detriment or anything. But I do remember deadlifts, and I was just like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to pull something big because you're not there to do it. And I just got it in my head. I was like, I got to pull this because if we got to represent Coleman.
Sure.
The Coleman powerlifting group. We got to show up, me being the 212 pound guy who's been powerlifting for 6 months, maybe.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go out there. It was 535, and looking back, I know I could have pulled so much more than that. At least 20 more pounds.
Neither me as a coach or you as an athlete knew that at that time. Right?
No, it was it was my first time with a deadlift bar because we didn't have a deadlift bar at the gym. It was like a whole bunch of firsts, but it turned out being a pretty fun meet, and I was pretty stoked. But going back to the bad side of all this is, everybody was getting ready to go eat, and I had no money to go eat. I was like, I can't afford to. And everyone was like, well, we'll pay for you. And I was like, I can't do that. Now I feel a little more comfortable with people paying for my food. But at the time I was like, I don't want to owe anybody anything kind of mentality. I was like, I'm just going to go home. And I went home that day and it was like a switch turned off. And it was like every bit of happiness that I had and every bit of joy I had at that meet was just, as soon as I stepped foot in my house, it was gone. And I was just back to being depressed. And it's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself for the rest of the day. This sucks. It's just, there was a lot of stuff going on and I was unhappy.
Yeah, I understand.
I was in a bad place and, I started trying to figure out what I could do. And at the time, and I don't think this way about it now, but at the time I was like, I don't need to go to therapy. Like I'm not, it's not for me, not that it's and at the time I didn't think it was a bad thing. I just felt like, I'm just being a big baby, but I couldn't help it. And looking back, I realized that was just a whole lot of, the bad side of being depressed, clinical depression. But, that's when I started poking and prodding, and we had talked about the option for TRT because
one of the benefits is it helps depression.
Yeah. So I was very uneasy about it. I really, for the longest time, ever since I had started, I was like, I don't want to touch anything. It's not for me. But I was so desperate for anything to make me get out of this headspace. I was like, I'll give it a try. Like I need something to get me out of this headspace. And COVID hit, not long after that.
No, it was literally like the next month.
Yeah. So
probably just a couple of weeks, to be honest with you.
It was not long. And I remember getting COVID, like before it was a huge thing. I ate some food from Nukes. It was the first time I'd ever eaten there. And I got dog sick. I thought I was going to die. Like I was laying on the couch. I was sweating. I was too weak to get up and answer the door. Like I was dead to the world. And then a few weeks later it passed. And, I think it was after that point where I finally made the decision to go ahead and start. And when I started the TRT, it felt like I wasn't depressed anymore. Shocker, right?
Yeah.
Like I was more confident in myself. I felt good. I felt like I had, my lists were going up, obviously, and like everything just felt like it was in the right place. So we were working out in the carport days. Those were good days. My restaurant shut down at the time, so I wasn't working and I was getting that government COVID pay.
Same. Yep.
I just, I rode that for about a month and a half. And, just the only thing I did was eat and go to the carport and work out. And it was,
me had become friends with Austin about a month prior to that too. So he was there with us all those days.
Austin was there. We had a lot of people.
Hangers on.
Yeah. Like, hey, you got
people
a gym.
Find out you got a home gym. Everybody shows up.
Yeah. Everybody wants to be your friend when you got a home gym.
Yeah. Never been so popular. Haven't been that popular since.
Well, I don't know about that, but yeah, that was the first time I had ever, I guess that was, all the stuff prior was kind of just like getting introduced to everything, kind of learning everything. And I feel like that was the first time where I really noticed like I'm a different person now.
Right.
And it was all for the better. It's just like if I couldn't have planned it out to work out like that.
Right.
And it all fell into place and here we are.
Yeah, that's picking up from that meet too. Well, the year prior I had started using too. It was my first experience with it, and I just got enormously strong. compared to where I was. I mean, I'm talking about between starting training with Brandon, training with Justin, and then starting basically what was a TRT dose at the time too. I started getting a lot stronger. And then after the passing of my uncle, I was like, in 2019, I was like, fuck it, we're going full send. I hired an anabolics coach. Started pinning 3 times a week. I pinned a half a cc of Masteron, a half a cc of Test E, and a half a cc of Trini. And I just really started putting a lot of weight on, but it made me go absolute. The Masteron, especially, I know now because it's the type of testosterone it is. Masteron just made me go batshit insane, and it caused a lot of problems in my personal life. Sandy's a saint. Never have I appreciated her more in this time, but I finally decided at some point during that year, I finally decided. For years, I've suffered from depression and stuff like that, and just always did the manly thing and bottled it up and didn't talk about it. So there was, every other day in the 7 or 8 years we had been together prior, it was, are you okay? Can I help you? Do you want to talk about it? Can you tell me what's wrong? This, that, and the other. And, at some point in 2019, after Randy's passing, I come clean about it and say, I'm 100% not okay. I'm not okay. I wasn't okay anyway, but just the feelings of just way overdoing a drug I really knew nothing about really, really, really messed me up. And I actually think me and Sandy are a lot better for it now because she knows how to deal with it and stuff like that. But just struggling with my mental health that year and the repercussions of some of the dumb shit I did because my mental health was poor really made 2019 hard. It's the strongest I've ever been. That's the first time. It's really the only time in powerlifting I've ever come to a point that said, here I am. I'm starting to accomplish all the things I wanted to accomplish. At that time, my deadlift's nearing 600 pounds. My squat has always been pathetic, but it's finally, 450 plus. My bench press, my best gym PR was 370 at the time. So I've just have really got it together better than I ever had it together. And going into that meet was so important because, I said it then, I said there, had I stayed on the platform and totaled, I wouldn't have been best lifter because of body weight, but I would have been the biggest total of that day. And to go out there and hurt myself because I did something stupid the week prior it just kind of gutted me. And then I spent the next 6 weeks, basically until we were in the carport gym, teaching myself how to squat again. I rehabbed it myself, which is incredibly stupid. That caused some problems later that we'll get into. But I rehabbed it myself. By the end of week 1, I was doing body weight squats to a bench again. By the end of week 2, I was squatting an empty barbell to depth. And it was about 6 weeks later before I had not necessarily a strong squat, but a squat that made me feel like myself. Mm-hmm. I remember taking 335 for a single one in the carport. And it wasn't necessarily physically hard, but it was just the most it had been on my back because I just physically couldn't squat it. Yeah. And I remember getting Austin to spot me, and I'm sure at the time he didn't know me that well. So he's like, this absolute bitch is about to, but he didn't know, one thing he didn't know at that point, that was 120 pounds less than I was used to squatting. Mm-hmm. I had an expectation for myself, and that just shattered me. And Brandon adjusted. He did really good as a coach. I had 2 or 3 really hard upper body days a week, and we just, on my odd days, I just did rehab working machines. That's what I did. And that, it was kind of fuel for fire in a sense because I saw how far I came with Brandon. And then because of COVID, I ended up not having to fire Brandon, but I ended up having to discontinue with him because I just couldn't afford it because I wasn't, I'd lost one job because they didn't want me working at the gym. And then the gym had become my sole income. And then I lost the gym because of the shutdown. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, the government, the COVID pay helped. But it just wasn't the same too, being around everybody. So 2020, again, despite 2019 being much worse, there was a huge dip for me in 2020 because of those things. So, and basically, to tell the truth, my entire journey since that point has been to avenge myself again. For that day. I had registered for a meet in 2021 that was exactly like a year and a day apart from the day we competed, and it got canceled because of COVID. So I didn't get to avenge myself in 2021. And then later in 2021, at this point, I'm programming for myself. Later in 2021, I was doing a lot of cardio. Was on the elliptical a lot, and I hurt my labrum. I hurt my hip on the elliptical, and I remember having done it, and it just felt really, really minor. A couple weeks later, we have a mock meet. I think my opening attempts are better than they've ever been. I opened with 540. Second attempt, I pulled 570. Third attempt was planning on being 600 pounds. Pull the 540. On the 570, I just feel something in my hip. Just like it was literally that motion. It was like just a slip. It wasn't painful or anything else, but it just slipped. Mm-hmm. Went on, got, I think you remember I got 600 or 605 or whatever it is to my knees, had to drop it, couldn't lock it out. Basically since then, I have been in a constant battle to fix that and come back, and still have not. It's shameful to say as a coach that I haven't gone the distance in a meet, but the whole thing has been avenging that day, February 1st, 2020. It's a very small goal, but really the only thing I want in March is to go the distance. I expect a 1,500 plus pound total because I would have totaled 14 on that day. So I expect to beat what I would have done that day. But it's really just about going and putting a total together just to say,
I did it, Mom.
I did it, Mom. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that's pretty much in a nutshell everything we've done. But, we continue to, with your help and everybody else's, we continue to build a powerlifting culture at that gym that grew. I don't want to say it's necessarily larger than the gym, but the gym began to get a reputation for powerlifting because we start doing this. My girls all do really good. You start doing really good. Austin comes. He comes out of retirement. Didn't have the meet he wants, so the SPF meet that he competed in, the first one. But he comes back, kind of redeems himself from his long hiatus from powerlifting. Josh Crittner starts training his enormous squat. Josh Smith comes, starts helping us. So all of a sudden now we're just like before in 2017, 2018, 2019, where we were like dabbling in, it seemed like we were dabbling in powerlifters, but we weren't competitive. And 2019, 2020, 2021, we find ourselves going and winning. Yeah. And not just winning, but breaking records and stuff like that. And it kind of solidified my idea that that powerlifting could be a career. Mm-hmm. So I'm proud of what we built there. And it's a shame to say that they may not feel the same way about that. But powerlifting's paid a lot of bills at that place. Yeah. It's paid a lot of my bills. And to think that I get to do something this fun for a living, and to think that I'm not even really an athlete myself because I've never even made a total on the platform is crazy. But people come to me for that now. They trust me. My peers trust me. You guys trust me. People that are way better than me, both in coaching and in athleticism, trust what I say about. To have somebody like Austin trust me with programming, or hell, even you now, because you've passed me, Josh, who's been doing this what feels like longer than we've been alive, for him to trust me with programming, for Tammy to, for hell, Sandy too. Sandy's a great powerlifter. I have girls that squat nearly as much as I do. Like, right. you know what I mean? Like, if I have anybody to think that I could be a authority on something I haven't even actually competed in myself successfully is wild to me. But here it is, and it's a career now. So
that just goes to show it's not necessarily about, I think Austin mentioned it before. He is the athlete. He doesn't care about the how process. And the why, the process. He just wants the result. He's relying on somebody else, who has the knowledge or the drive to have the knowledge even.
Yeah, it's a desire to learn too.
Yeah. Yep. To want to know how these things work, to want to know how to get better, to relay that knowledge to the athlete. I mean, you look at, there's a lot of like the jokes about it's the overweight coach that, old overweight guy, he doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
I want to talk to the guy who's, doing 10 cc's and and looks like I want to, but the guy over here has been doing it for years. He did it before, he knows so much, not only from experience, from what he's learned. You look at like specifically, and I don't mean to actually, the context is a little weird, but a boxing coach, like an old boxing coach, like you look at an old boxing coach when they're, I forget what it's called. This number.
Yeah. The speed bag.
Speed bag. That's what it is. When you see like an old boxing coach hit a speed bag, it's like, oh, I get it now. You know what I mean?
Experience means something.
Yeah. Well, not just experience, knowledge. Just the know-how, the knowledge of it. Because you can take the knowledge and put it into practice.
One thing that made me a lot better as a coach, and I'm sure it's going to translate to my platform in March, is just I didn't make y'all get out and do it. I strongly encourage getting out and competing often.
Yeah.
And what y'all don't necessarily know, you probably do because you can put it on, you can connect dots like this, but what people don't necessarily know is that every time I go to a powerlifting meet to coach it, I learn something new.
Yeah.
So as I've been coaching powerlifting meets and selecting attempts and doing this, even guiding y'all through warm-ups and stuff like that, I gain more and more knowledge every time I do it. And I've just gotten to where, way more so than I am as an athlete, but as a coach, I'm just really well practiced.
Yeah.
I do it all the time for all levels of powerlifters. So, it helps. You know what I mean? It helps to be in it and it helps to do it. I don't know what to say about it. I know I have a lot further to go. You never quit learning in this, and the minute you quit learning is the minute your career and your success dies. Mm-hmm. I mentioned one of the things that drew me to Ron. There were two meets in particular. We competed at a USAPL meet. My girls did, Dave Hayes did, and Lee Johnson did, somewhere like Wetumpka area. And just watching Ron and how he handled his athletes, the things that were happening that day, I learned so much just from watching him and listening to him. And he doesn't even know what kind of effect he had on me on that day. And then the next day, the next meet that I coach, this is sometime before that SPF meet, is in Fultondale, Gardendale area at TriStar Fitness. Ron's there with his athletes, and he gives some of my girls some pointers about deadlifts. It was the baby powder pointer. Mm-hmm. But just watching people like him, like Ron, like Dustin Reed, Jesse is old and curmudgeon-y and is just an grumpy old man as he is. Just that guy has wisdom to everything that comes out of his mouth, whether you like the SPF or not. That guy knows what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. And just shutting up and listening. Even listening to other coaches that may not know what they're talking about as much. You can learn something from bad information too. You can learn something if you're willing to dissect it. You can learn something from anything. But specifically locally, just watching Ron and how he conducts himself with his athletes definitely had a big influence on me hiring him, but even had a bigger influence on the way I coach people and the way I handle people on meet day. Yeah. His knowledge for the game is just far beyond mine and stuff like that. But just listening to people. That's how you gain knowledge, is just shut up and
just listen.
Just listen. Doesn't matter if you believe in what they're saying or not. You can dissect something. Mm-hmm. Now, Ron, in my experience, has been right every time every time I've had to deal with anything. Dustin Reed is the same way. Jesse's the same way. But even just listening to other coaches, and there's another big name coach who's been named on the podcast before, but I won't name him in this instance. Watching the way he conducts things on meet day versus the way these other guys conduct things on meet day, despite how great he is and despite how good his athletes is, to me, there was just something. It may be the empathy and just the care he took for the athletes, but there was just something missing from him that I just didn't gain as much knowledge from. But those two guys specifically, Dustin don't even know me. We've met each other in passing a few times, but just paying attention to people that actually give a fuck about their athletes, man, that's been invaluable. That's just the biggest game changer for me. And then, personally as an athlete is not getting out of pocket, doing what my coach tells me, and then just also just trusting the way I feel.
Yeah.
I had an issue come up on deadlifts the other day. I was just smoked. I had some deadlifts programmed at a certain weight that some deficit deadlifts after my big deadlifts were done. I just didn't have anything left. Couldn't pull it. I could have probably been stubborn and pulled it anyway and hurt myself. I just took 100 pounds off the bar and just got the work done. But little things like that you just gain from just having done it, a willingness to try to stay healthy and to listen to somebody is so much different. I can listen to other coaches as a coach and gain a lot of knowledge from them. But as a lifter that coaches, when it comes to yourself, you always want to take over and say, like, no, I know better. I know me better. But in reality, when you listen to these guys that you pay for, there's a reason you pay for them.
Yep.
And unfortunately, as good as a relationship I have with Brandon, I just didn't listen enough to Brandon.
Yeah.
I got out of pocket way too much, and I paid the price for it. But that's powerlifting now. So
that's the lesson.
Call it something modern day.
Well, I got a little bit. I guess I could talk about the meets in between. So after the first meet that we did together, started to develop a love for it. So we start training, and really I don't have a goal of doing another meet in the near future, mostly because of COVID. I think there was one that I was planning on going to that got canceled, so it didn't end up. It may be the same one I was. It may have been. So we were kind of, I think we did some mock meets in between. Noticed I'm getting stronger, getting better at all my lifts. I'm starting to develop a desire to learn mechanics and kind of like the little nuances, where your feet should be, all this, the arching with your back, the pushing your head against the bench, just the little things here and there. I'm diving in. I'm like, how can I get better? How can I eke out a couple extra pounds? And, just progressively getting better and better. And I had a coaching certificate for a while that I never did anything with. I got it through ACE 2016, 2017, something like that. Just never did anything with it. But I wanted to, because I started to love it, but I just never used it. But learning the stuff, trying to get better. We go into another SPF meet. That was the same meet but different day as Austin. Went in there and I put 300 pounds on my total. I think I ended with 1540 as my total that day.
Yeah, it was huge. Yeah.
But it was like was it in October of 2021?
September, October. It was SPF Worlds in Knoxville.
Yeah. I'll say September.
It was September. I remember because Rod Run was in town. It made traffic horrendous.
It was awful. We were trying to just walk places and it was miserable. But
in every meaning of the word, it was miserable.
So you look at a year and 7 months. So a little more than a year and a half. I put 300, odd pounds on my total. That was really cool. So it really kind of solidified that, I was doing something right. You were doing something right.
And you and Austin both strongest two raw lifters by far at that meet. Austin technically won SPF Worlds.
Yeah. Well, he won raw no wraps, I think.
Well, he won the trophy for the whole thing. I don't know why he didn't get paid.
It was not to knock SPF. It was kind of a shit show. And it was almost like separate meets, but it was the same meet. And they gave
the multiply lifters, man. That's that meet and the Austin's meet before. That's how I kind of gained a little bit of a hatred for multiply happening the same day as raw.
Yeah. It made the day super long. so many different flights, and
they're definitely catered to in that federation, and it's that 1 minute time to get your lift done goes out the window if you're in a multiply suit. Like, seeing people take 2 or 3 minutes to set their athlete up for a bench press and and stuff like that.
It's annoying. It just makes the day drag, and it's like, come on, we need to separate this or something. But anyway, I got a trophy as well. It's somewhere. It might be behind all that stuff. I won my weight class that day, which was pretty cool because it was a bigger event. You know, it wasn't like,
it was a big event for SPF for sure.
Yeah, it was a big event for SPF.
It's 100 lifters because it was a 2-day event.
Yep, it was 100 lifters. Overall, I think I was like 14, 15, somewhere around there for the whole day, I think. So I was stoked that I placed at all, you know. Like,
I think it's the first time you actually had competition in the
there was. But the problem with that day was that I didn't know who my competition was because everything was so disorganized.
Everything's handwritten there. We don't get the screen like we do in
USPA.
Yeah.
But again, not to knock SPF, those two.
No, they're fun.
They were super fun. It was just I just didn't know anything other than go out there and do what you can.
Also, Austin convinced you to squat and wraps when you haven't done a single squat and wraps prior to your squats and wraps.
Well, I did a few in my wraps, and I wrapped them myself. When it came down to Austin squat or wrapping my knees, that was a different experience entirely. He felt like my joints were going to snap. Like my knees were just going to.
Your hamstrings were bruised. I remember.
Yeah, my hamstrings, the back of my knee,
which is normal apparently. But.
Made me sleeves for life kind of guy, I think. But no, we did that, and I only missed one lift. I only missed one squat. Excuse me. Technically, I went 6 for 9. I made my last deadlift, but I missed my last squat and my last bench, which
7 for 9. Or did you miss a deadlift?
Yeah, I missed my second deadlift.
Was it a lockout? I don't remember.
Yeah, it was soft knees.
Soft knees.
It was
the only technical call made on an SPF Sunday or Saturday for you. It's like we pay attention to the rules now. Okay,
right.
Cool.
Squat depth, it doesn't matter. But now, if you don't lock out your knees on a deadlift, we're gonna get you.
Squat depth matters. If you're a raw lifter in SPF, squat depth matters. Multiply, you can just
yeah. As long as you get down, you know,
downish.
Yeah.
And it is to see the guys that do get called for depth complain about it. It's just like it's kind of hysterical to me a little bit. I'm sorry to all of our multiply listeners. Y'all were cool, I swear. No, maybe a little less so, but y'all are still cool. I've gained a lot of knowledge from my multiply lifter and Josh Smith, and he swears by it. He loves it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But to be fair to that guy, I mean, he totals 1,500 without it. So at 220. So I mean, he's not a weak person, you know. No. So unfortunately, I have seen people in that federation that can't bench press 275 raw go up and attempt 500 in a shirt.
Yeah,
that's a little
cheesy.
Yeah, that's a little. I mean, it's a little cheesy at this point. What are you doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll never forget
you're not doing much. The suit.
Yeah, the first time I really experienced that was at Austin's first meet back, and Austin, he's a pretty aggressive dude. He's not mean by no means, but he got pretty much ran out of the warm up section for squats. And then goes on to have the second biggest squat of the day. Mm-hmm. The only guy that out squats him is a multiply lifter that squats like 800, and Austin squats 6 something.
Yeah.
And raw.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, everybody's basically like, one of these things is not like the other. You know what I mean? Like, so I mean, it kind of, he didn't have the meet he wanted to, but it kind of made me feel good too, because they were rude as shit in the warm up area. It was a completely different vibe from like a USPA or USAPL meet, where everybody is kind of supportive. They were like, fuck no, you're raw, go do this somewhere else. Like, everything we do takes precedence, and then they go out and do less.
Yeah.
Which was kind of, in its own way, it was pretty funny, to be honest with you. So
justice.
I'm happy on that day Austin was representing us, because he has just such an enormously awesome squat. You know what I mean?
He's really good at all three.
He really is good at all three, but but I felt very proud and very represented in that day where he was the strongest person there, and he was in sleeves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was good for my ego. I think it was probably good for Austin's, even if he didn't have the meat he wanted that day.
Yeah, it's really hard to have the meat that you want first time coming back after being out of it for so long, though.
Don't tell me that.
You're on a good track, though. You're on a good track. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I really
don't stress about it. It's fine.
I really should start practicing commands. But, for me, moving forward, I'm kind of doing I'm kind of going to follow in Elizabeth's footsteps. I'm going to go to the transformation thing. We've talked about that already, but it's going to be a big change for me to go from powerlifting and worried about being strong to all of a sudden having to be worried about what I look like, what I weigh, what I eat, more so than I do now, all those things. And it's kind of intimidating in a way. I need to for my health and for my mental health, for, I have a history of eating disorders. I need to do those things for that. And that's the reason I want to do it, because I'll do something if I have somebody to beat, but I'm not going to do it for me.
Yeah.
So in order for it to get done for me, I had to find a different reason to focus my mind on it. And I'm a little heartbroken about it just because my time with Ron, although it's going to be short, has been so great. 100%. And when I get on the other side of this thing, when I start coming back up, Ron will be my coach moving forward. But it's just time, health-wise, age-wise, stuff like that, to just shift focus long enough for me to get things right and get healthy.
Yeah, and that makes sense because you don't want to do this for so long that it puts your long-term health at jeopardy.
I don't want to be burned. I don't want to be burned out either.
Yeah.
I want to, mentally, I want to be able to continue doing this for the rest of my life. Even when physically, even if I get to the point physically I can't. So I want to always be involved in powerlifting. That is always going to be the greater goal. But honestly, just like your situation in cutting, I think that this is what it's going to take for me to be a better powerlifter. I'm probably going to stage weight in October is probably going to be 225 to 235. It's going to be a lot of weight loss for me. But I know if I do that, the next time I weigh 275 pounds, I'll be the best 275 pound weight class I've ever been. I'm going to be healthier. I'm going to feel better. I'm going to move better. So, it sounds counterproductive because it's such a long prep, but it's really all about my health first. But at the end of the day, it really is all about being a better powerlifter.
It's not, what is it? It's a marathon, not a race.
Yeah, absolutely. And, everybody, every coach worth their salt, every athlete worth their salt, anybody with any experience in this game or any know-how, anything under their belt will tell you that it's consistency that will win you meets. Your willingness to go do what other people want, which diet's part of that for me. That's something I got to nail down. That's the reason I want to do this bodybuilding prep, because I want to know what a miserable diet actually looks like. So that the next time I have to eat the vertical diet to get better at powerlifting, I won't bitch about it.
Yeah.
And moan about it and act like it's the worst thing I've ever done.
Promise you,
it's retraining my brain. You know what I mean?
If you eat ground turkey and egg whites every day for breakfast for a week, you'll appreciate the vertical
greens
diet.
With nothing on them and 2 gallons of water and all these things. I want to experience it too, because I do feel like, and we're in a bodybuilding town. There's nothing wrong with that. I respect that sport so much. And the people that are good at it in our town, I respect them a lot, because that grind because they respect our grind. But that grind is incredible. I mean, it's crazy what those guys go through. But I kind of want to do it just to say, look, motherfucker,
I can do it.
You may be better at it than me. You may have done it, but don't act like you're the only one that can do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it is actually to elevate myself amongst my peers and my peers' opinion of me, to be honest with you too. And as a trainer, I mean, it sucks. I'm probably more self-conscious about it than I am. And when I tell people I'm a powerlifting coach, they feel like it makes more sense, right? Because powerlifters are fat, whatever, that cliche. But it sucks as a personal trainer to not look like a personal trainer.
Right.
Now, I mean, if you look at my upper back and my legs and the size of my chest and stuff like that, you can definitely look at me and say that guy works out. But it's not like, I'm not walking around here at 10% body fat, and I'm not taking half naked pictures of myself and putting them on Instagram or anything like that. And nor am I worthy of that at the moment. But, as a personal trainer, there is something professionally compelling about being able to do that side of things too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, it
can only make it better,
right? It's good for branding because, like, when people look for a trainer, they want to see somebody who's in it.
Client zero, right? I mean, like, if you can't take care of yourself, you can't expect people to trust you to take care of them. And I've done a really good job building trust with my clients, and I believe that the people I've trained believe in me and love me as I love them and respect what I do. But it's just adding another level to that. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, I've been fat before. I have done this the wrong way with my eating disorders and stuff, and I have done this the right way. And that just increases your ability to relate and be empathetic and help somebody.
Yeah, makes you a better coach.
It does. It's going to make me a better coach, and I have to tell myself that, and I continuously tell myself that what I'm doing, I'm going to have Grant help me, obviously, but what I'm doing will ultimately be the best thing for me in powerlifting. And the next time I call Ron and say, "Do you want to coach me?" And I hire him and I get ready for another meet, I have no doubt that I'll be better for it. So. Dad jokes? Are you done? You got parts of yours you want to speak on the here and now?
I mean, the only I don't have any goals right now, which is kind of unfortunate.
Life's changing.
A lot of things going on. So really, I'm just trying to stick in it. I'm trying to stay consistent. I'm trying to put my weight back on currently, and I think. My biggest goal is to really, it's going to be, it's kind of stupid to say out loud, but it's going to be power building. I want to stay strong, but I also want to work on physique. So it's going to be.
Does that feel like a buzzword to you now a little bit?
Yeah.
But really it's really the right way. It's really the way we should have been training as powerlifters all along.
I think it's a good stance on powerlifting off season.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't want to get weak in your off season.
You also shouldn't be getting hurt in your off season.
Yeah, you shouldn't be.
You shouldn't get hurt in your on season, but you definitely shouldn't be putting your nuts on the chopping block in the off season when it doesn't matter.
Right.
You should just be getting better.
Yeah. You should focus on. That's what I'm really doing is focusing on just getting better at the lifts, putting more weight on the bar as I can, or grinding out more reps or whatever. Really, I do feel like. Right now, and it may just be right now, I don't have the same grit that I had 3 years ago. When I was just getting started 3 years ago, I feel like I had that, I'm going to get this no matter what if it kills me. And maybe it's just because I've been in it so long and I know how my body feels. It's like when it starts to get to that point, it's like, I don't have spotter, I'm just going to rack it.
Right.
And I feel like I'm defaulting that more and more. And I don't know if it's experience or if it's cowardice.
Well, I mean, it could be both, and it could be striking at different times, right? I mean, like, to be completely honest with you, I'm in a season where I'm learning things about myself that I never thought like today's a good example. I never thought I was going to be capable of that. I was never an athlete or anything before, so I have very little physical confidence, you know what I mean, in my physical ability or anything like that. So for me, it's kind of, I'm a little bit pissed off I'm a little bit less pissed off if you want to call that the grit that I'm missing. Mm-hmm. But in the same sense, like I'm gaining confidence that I've never had. One, because I'm healthy, I'm not injured right now. I have a lot of things going for me in a positive way. So I think in a weird way, I feel like I'm just now learning how to be gritty in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I said, we're in very different seasons though. And injury after injury after injury will take some physical confidence away from you too.
Yeah.
And to be this far into a meet prep, knock on wood, I have a little bit of a chest strain right now, but outside of that, I'm 95% healthy at the moment.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that chest strain is just something that's kind of touch and go. On days I feel good, I'm going to hit what I'm supposed to. On days I feel bad, I'm just going to be like, listen, Ron, just felt like shit. Can I do floor presses instead of,
right.
Whatever it may be. The best I can do is make him aware of it, be open and honest and do it that way. But
And not just power through it, and not just
not being an idiot. Yeah, I mean it's no pain, no gain. Right? It's been drilled in our head all the time. But if you're injured, you miss practice, and that means if you miss practice, that means you're no longer consistent. And we just told you that the most important thing about this whole grind as a bodybuilder, as a powerlifter, as a CrossFitter, as anything physical, any strength sport, is consistency. If you're dumb enough to go get yourself hurt when you know you shouldn't, freak accidents happen all the time.
Right.
You go in and train hurt, knowing you're hurt, you make it worse. You have taken consistency off by default, you're taking consistency off the table for yourself. And I'm just not where I really abused my time with Brandon, and I regret that. I'm just really not about taking that consistency off the table for me anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, to the point that I don't even add it, used to, after a big bench press day, I would add some arm stuff. So I got to do more arms, or, my quads are small. Or whatever I felt bad about. I have to do more of this. I do exactly what's on that paper now.
Yeah.
And if he gives me the opportunity to train a little bit more arms, I'll hit him a little harder that day than I normally do. What he does give me, I do seriously. I push myself to my absolute max. So I get the most out of that 3 sets of 10 he programs on dips or whatever it is. And then when it's done, it's just done. I'm finding it's more enjoyable because today was long, but I had to deal with clients in and out and everything else. But, a lot of these workouts I'm getting done in 45 minutes to an hour and a half max, where it was taking me 2.5 and 3 hours to work out.
Yeah.
There's wisdom comes with it. Dad jokes?
I'm good with dad jokes. Let's see what we got going on today. Dad says jokes. We need to tag them.
Yeah, we do, because we rip their jokes off all the time.
Let's see. Oh, that's a good one, and it's topical. It's just, I don't know if you saw it's like the very first one that popped up.
Yeah, go ahead.
So my New Year's resolution is to procrastinate, and I'll start tomorrow.
Pretty good.
I dig that
one. Shout out to my grandma. That's the only way she can hear. I should have screamed that one.
That would have been fun.
What type of jeans do damn, I fucking stepped all over that one. Never mind. So you can say, what type of pants do ghosts wear? Boo jeans.
What type of jeans?
Yeah, I fucked that one all the way up. Sorry, guys.
So Christmas was not long ago. I got a gift. It was a deck of sticky playing cards. I'm having a hard time dealing with this.
That's good.
All right. I think that's good enough for the day.
Yeah, we ran over a little bit again.
A little bit, but we reined it in more than we did when we had Austin. So we'll take it as a win. So don't think we really have any plans on next week. Do you know if Dave or... Yeah, we might reach out to Dave and Steve and see if they can come do it, or one or the other. I still want Steven to come do it, but wrestling season's starting back up for him, and he's putting on shows on Saturday nights, so it's kind of going to be a little touch and go on guests, I think. But I think that maybe we should start. I really wouldn't mind if he would be willing to. I wouldn't really mind Justin come and talk about his experience with strength training. He's never actually competed, but God, he's got awful strong. So yeah, he's got awful strong. He has some wisdom to share of his own that's very not clinical, I'll say. But I mean, he knows one thing in the gym, and that's real fucking hard work. Yeah. And he got real fucking strong in doing it. So I really wouldn't mind doing it with him. But we got some ideas. It's probably time for another female guest too. Miss Tammy would be a really good option for that. Absolutely. Casey would be there. I mean, we got a ton of people that we could bring on. So, look forward to more guests. We just don't know which ones yet. If anyone wants to be on the show that knows us, hit us up. Reach out. I mean, we'll probably just say, yeah. I mean, if not, we'll do a little bit less, a little bit less history and backstory and stuff like that, and maybe just dive into a specific topic next time if it ends up just being you and I. So. Yeah, I think we could. There are several topics that we could just talk about, but Yeah, maybe we'll see what happens. It's gonna be a mystery. Got any closing thoughts?
Yeah.
Listen to your coach.
Listen to your coach. Don't do the bad things we did. Do more of the good things that we did. Do everything you can to stay consistent. And sometimes that means pulling your head out of your ass, dropping your ego, quitting the lift altogether that day, or taking the weight down. Don't embarrass yourself on the platform with a grade 2 groin strain, especially when you would have been the strongest person there.
Don't take our advice on steroids. Consult your doctor, because we are not doctors, and
we are not.
We do not take any responsibility. We're just just talking about our experience.
And honestly, I told you 2019 I had a really bad time because I fucked around with somebody I shouldn't have been fucking around with. In terms of advice, I hired an anabolic coach. Turns out they were just gearheads and wanted to pump me full of a bunch of bullshit that, without any look at my blood work or anything like that. Best thing I can tell you is stay off of it as long as you can. If you do decide to make that decision, consult your doctor, get blood work done regularly, eat well, sleep well. Those 2 things are going to carry you further than steroids ever could anyway. Yep. And when you've exhausted all possibilities and you've done them well, then you can consider that path. But consult a doctor.
Yep.
Or a physician.
Or a physician.
Starting to say. Is that not what they say at the end of pharmaceutical commercials?
Yeah, but
what is the delineating factor between a doctor or a physician? They both went to medical school. I mean, they're both doctors, right? So,
I don't know.
I guess a physician could be a catch-all because you can do like nurse practitioners and shit, right? So
would they be considered a physician?
Probably, because they can have their own practice. So
I guess so.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the difference is. Somebody in the medical field chime in on that.
Probably.
Maybe we should have Desi on next time. She should be our guest.
She will probably not.
Sit here in silence the whole time.
Pretty much just like hating it, feeling uncomfortable the whole time.
Probably would.
All right. Well, I guess that's it. So we'll see you guys next time. And until then, go have a drink.
Yeah.
Get some. Can we the Shanky's Whip, man? Get some
Shanky's Whip. Make an old fashioned with it. It was delicious.
That's like the best thing I've had drink wise in a long time.
Happy New Year's. Don't drink and drive.
Peace.
Later.